Welcome to the European CME Forum podcast. European CME Forum is a not-for-profit organisation that promotes multi-channel discussion on matters relating to European and global CME CPD. I'm Eugene Pozniak, Programme Director of European CME Forum. We present the next in the series of webinars from the Good CME Practice Group. The Good CME Practice Group, or gCMEp, is a membership organisation for CME providers based in Europe. In today's episode, Monica Ghidinelli of the AO Foundation is in conversation with group member Louise Banks of touchIME and guest panellist Reinhard Griebenow of the European Cardiology Section Foundation, delving deeper into some key questions about CME accreditation in Europe. The focus of today's episode is CME CPD accreditation. Worth the effort?
Hi everybody, welcome to the webinar today. I'm Monica Ghidinelli from the AO Foundation, a provider from Switzerland, working globally and also in Europe. And with me today, we have Louise that represents the provider perspective and Reinhard representing the accreditor perspective to discuss this topic of accreditation. Is really worth the effort. So I would like to start with the introduction. So please, Louise.
Hi, thanks, Monica. Hi, nice to see you all. My name's Louise Banks. I'm Head of Operations for touchIME, and I've been with the organisation now for 7 years. We're a member of the gCMEp group, and I'm delighted to be speaking today as an accredited provider.
Reinhard?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Reinhard Griebenow, cardiologist, still working in private practice. My experience in CME dates back 20 years on the national level in Germany and nearly 20 years now with the European Board for Accreditation of Continuing Education for Health Professionals, EBAC. You have also asked me to say some introductory words about EBAC. Legally, EBAC is a non-governmental accrediting body under control of a non-profit charitable foundation. And this foundation has no statutory, contractual, or other relations to any scientific, professional, political, commercial, or other organization or association of organizations. So EBAC is probably one of the most independent accrediting bodies on this little globe. EBAC is located in Europe, in Germany, but serves clients all over the world, as well as clients producing content for a global audience. EBAC works on basis of the International Academy for CPD Accreditation standards for substantive equivalency between CME and CPD accreditation systems. These standards have become part of a recognition process run since 2025 by the World Federation of Medical Education. The WFME doesn't call it standards, they call it criteria, but they are completely identical. They have just adopted the International Academy standards, and EBAC belongs to the first 4 organizations recognized by WFME, and these 4 organizations at the same time form the inaugural committee for recognition, together with some candidates nominated by WFME. And EBAC is also a so-called partner member of the International Association of Medical Regulatory Authorities, IAMRA. EBAC has started as an activity provider, but now offers activity accreditation as well as provider accreditation, and the educational formats are ranging from on-site in-person meetings, the classical format, to on the one side to so-called micro e-learning on the other side.
Thank you, Reinhard. And since we are in this, normally the learner attending our webinars are both from US and from Europe, and they want to know more about European accreditation. And can we just spend a few words on the difference between provider accreditation versus activity accreditation, because in Europe we have a little bit, we focus on event accreditation, while in the US is more provider accreditation, right?
Activity accreditation means that whoever wants to organize accredited CME has to apply for the single activity, and the single activity will be checked whether it's eligible for accreditation. Provider accreditation means that organization, a provider, a CME provider commits that they will fulfill all the criteria set by the accrediting body and then do the administrative part on themselves. And this needs to be checked from time to time by the accrediting body whether they really comply with the rules. And I think a lot of discussion has emerged around the degree of control needed. And my impression is that the degree of control has risen in the US also in the past years. They are now running their PASS system, Program and Activity Reporting System, in the EBAC system, because EBAC has started as an activity provider. So there is a system in place where the accredited providers can document what they have done. So this, we would be in the position whenever we want to control whether they are compliant with the rules. But this is more or less a discussion about the degree of control needed. In fact, many systems in Europe, for example, the system in Germany or also in Austria, they definitely contain elements of provider accreditation. And so this is not completely unusual in Europe too.
Thank you for the clarification. And now let's go a little bit deeper into the topic of accreditation. So, Louise, can you a little bit cover what is for you the value of accreditation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Monica. So accreditation really does add truly meaningful value to the education that we provide. On a number of levels, really. So firstly, what it does is it increases the credibility of an activity. We know that. It provides another layer of quality assurance. It builds trust with faculty. And we know that in particular, it builds trust amongst learners and HCPs as well. It really is the one true indicator as well that an activity is truly independent, which is really, really important. There are many other benefits that I know we'll delve into, but that basically is just a summary.
Okay, thank you for this general, and then we will go a little bit more in detail later. But Reinhard, do you have anything to add from your point of view?
Yeah, you can imagine that I really appreciated what Louise has said. I would like to add a slightly broader perspective from the perspective of the learner. If you look into the medical career of a physician, they start medical studies. Everything they need to learn has been defined in a curriculum, and it has been defined who can teach that, highly regulated. Then this is followed by specialty training. And in this phase, it already becomes a little bit more liberal. Still, there are many things covered by a curriculum. There are many things defined what you need to learn, which experience you have to make, and so on, and who can train you. Nevertheless, knowledge acquisition during this time is mainly up to the candidate to organize that. But once you have become a specialist in the UK, for example, then you can become a consultant or something like that. You are completely independent. You are exposed to a completely free information market and have to make your choice. And the question is, what could be the criteria for you to decide what to read, what to attend, what to deal with, and what you would not like to touch. And I think that's where accreditation comes in place, because as a profession, we have committed in the basic documents of the World Medical Association, for example, to serve always in the best interest of a patient. And we have claimed professional autonomy in order to do that appropriately. And on the other hand, we have claimed that we will only act in the interest of a patient, and there will be no third-party interests which will have or should and may have an influence on that. And that's what you have to put into your educational practice, into your individual educational practice as a physician. And I think in this context and in this scenario, accreditation cannot be missing, because it's the only way to demonstrate that a provider has committed to the standards of independence, transparency, and an education in this case, which is needs-based assessment, needs-based and based on a needs assessment. Sorry.
Thank you. But now, let's say, but what is the real advantage for the learner? Apart what you have just said, Reinhard, Louise, what is, in your opinion, from the provider, really the advantage for the learner?
For the learner, so it's so much more than just about claiming the credit. So just to build on what Reinhard said, really, it signals and strengthens the credibility of the education, which really is what it's about. And that indication of truly independent, unbiased, peer-reviewed content that they can rely on, they know it's credible and they can trust, that is where the true value lies for us. It really is seen as a mark of quality on the education. So again, it's all about just sort of building that trust. We actually recently surveyed some of our learners, and they gave us a resounding message, which was that they value accredited education above all else. They do see it as that stamp of approval and valuable, meaningful education, again, that they can trust. So that word trust, it all comes back to that, really.
Maybe I want to ask you a question that came from through the registration, still Louise. If you can, because there was a question related to how important are really the credits themselves compared to the accreditation, because there were some comments coming in that for their perspective, only 15-20% of learners are really claiming the credits. So what is the advantage of having credits versus accreditation? And then why we are not just developing education that is independent without going through the application process to receive the stamp of accreditation?
Obviously, it really is valuable for, our learners to be able to, get that credit if they want it. But really it's just about that sort of that stamp of approval. They know that it's there if they want it, and it just makes it a lot easier for them to know that they can rely on that education, really, Monica.
Thank you.
May I just comment on that?
Yes, of course.
I think it's there is definitely a desperate minority of people who attend something because they want to get the credits. And that are those who are missing, I don't know, 5 credits in order to fulfill the requirements or something like that. Yeah. And they take what they get. Accreditation is not about credits. I think this is an extremely important message. Accreditation is about independence, transparency, and an education based on needs. And that's it. Credits is an absolutely secondary administrative issue, which relates obviously only to a minority of participants. This will probably change if the context change. If you go to the national level and look at local meetings, people are highly interested in credits because they are living in a controlled system, for example, or stuff like that. But it's a frequent finding that providers serving an international community only have a minority of people who are interested in credits. Yeah? People are interested in independent and impactful education. And it's indeed challenging to talk about the value of education, because there is a critical step which we have difficulties to measure. Yeah, if physicians will attend CME and will have the impression that this is not independent, the impact will go down. Definitely. We have published evidence about distrust in industry-funded research and so on and so on. But this is difficult to measure. And I think the value is that people really attend your activities because they know they are independent. And we want to effect change, we want to have impact, and it's absolutely clear. And on the very moment people have the impression this is not independent, their will to effect change or change something, and the impact will go down, definitely.
Thank you. I have a connecting question that is coming from the audience now. And I mean, it is true that credits are not recognized in the same way across Europe. As you just said, Reinhard, there are different country level regulations, so different level of control. You are part of a group that is trying to harmonize accreditation. Of course, in Europe, we don't have this, so would be worth harmonizing this type of accreditation across Europe.
Yeah, thanks for this question. And it's very similar to another question which came in before this webinar, how to harmonize CME requirements across Europe. I think we need to differentiate. CME requirements are set by regulators. Yeah, that you have to do a certain amount or something like that. That's not set by accrediting bodies. If the question relates to couldn't accrediting bodies where they exist, and they do not exist in every European country, could they work on the same basis? Then the answer is currently they do not. They probably have very similar rules if you look at the rules of each organization, but they do not relate to a common basis. And that's the reason why we have, as EBAC, supported the development of these International Academy standards for substantive equivalency, in order to have a global framework wherever people want to set up or run an accreditation system, that they can build it on these standards. This now exists on a global level and can be used.
Perfect, thank you. So maybe I want to go to a little bit more in Louise's point of view on how can you decide which type of accreditation you have. And since you are an accredited provider from EBAC, why you chose also to become an accredited provider?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So touchIME, we've been an accredited provider with EBAC now for 2 years, I think it is, Reinhard, actually. So we feel that it demonstrates a commitment to high quality, independent, meaningful education that obviously improves patient care. EBAC as an organisation is obviously really well established and has an excellent reputation for high standards. Obviously, one of the important things for us as well is that they adhere to the UEMS ECSF standards, which are widely accepted across Europe and internationally. So that for us was obviously really, really important. EBAC accredits both live and on-demand education, which, you know, for us is really important. So there was a number of reasons, really. And as well, obviously the team at EBAC are fantastic to work with. They've got really great processes in place, so they make it really easy to work with them. So for us, it was a no-brainer really, and we really value our collaboration with EBAC, really our partnership.
Okay, thank you. So you talked about the flexibility of formats also that they are able to accredit. We had also a question coming through before the webinar asking when we will have half credits. Actually, EBAC is giving, I mean, there are opportunities to have also half credits and have short formats of education. Or what are the other possibilities right now to accredit shorter formats of education?
Yeah, thanks for this question. I think it nicely highlights the issue accrediting bodies need to tackle and to find a solution. On the one hand, we need to be consistent. We need to make reproducible decisions, and people have to external agencies need to have to rely on the stability of our administrative procedures. On the other hand, we should serve the profession, and we should serve the informational needs of the profession. And these informational needs have not changed, to be honest, but the means to serve them have changed. In former times, when I started medicine 50 years ago, and we had an acute problem, we went to the library and looked into a book which was outdated. Nowadays, in digital times, this has changed. And the question is how we as accrediting bodies can align with these technical changes and facilitate that accredited material can be used flexibly. And this is a very nice example for the two positions accrediting bodies have to navigate between. The one is that, as I said, you have to stay consistent with your administrative procedures. On the other hand, you have to make a decision about is administration about distrust, or does it support the learner? And we have decided to accept tracking as sole proof of participation in e-learning. And this has helped us to accredit nearly every format being longer than 10 minutes for use as accredited CME. We know the caveats, the people coming up and say this is opening up the door for cheating. Yes, it is. But we have decided to do that because in times where published evidence shows that between 20 and 80% of the profession are in burnout, and due to a recent survey in Germany, more than 20% of physicians consider to leave the profession, not to work part-time or something like that, change the specialty, but leave the profession. We would say it's a malignant assumption to say that people are attending CME just for cheating purposes. And that has helped us to say, okay, we accept tracking as sole proof, and this has indeed liberalized the use of e-learning and liberalized the use of accredited material in every decisional scenario you might imagine.
Okay, thank you, Reinhard, for the nice explanation. So there is also another point that came up right now in the Q&A that is related to this topic, and is how, I mean, it is true that the industry also generates and supports a lot of different type of education and also independent education. So one barrier to go through accreditation is the process itself. So Louise, from your perspective, is the effort that as a provider you go through to credit worth, or is still like in the past very laborious and is not really something that you would go through?
Thanks, Monica. No, in short, I would say I wouldn't say it's laborious. I think that all of the information that you have to provide is really important, it's valuable, and it's necessary. And I think everyone recognizes all of the reasons why you need to provide that information. I think that it's really, really important. It's actually quite easy. Certainly to become an accredited provider with EBAC, I was quite involved actually with our organisation from the very beginning. And everything obviously is online on the EBAC portal. And it was really clear up front the information that's necessary, why it's necessary, and it was quite easy to gather. I think that there's also very much just a general understanding, you know, amongst faculty, our internal colleagues, as to the information that you need to sort of gather and provide. So no, I don't think it's laborious. I think it's important. It's, you know, and making sure that the whole process really is robust and transparent. That's really what's so important, and I think everyone recognizes that. So no, I would say it's not laborious. It's sort of, you know, worth it and valuable.
So if I can give also my perspective from a provider perspective, is really it got better over time. I have to say the application process is smoother, and it also for every provider, and probably also EBAC had this let's say improve the process to encounter our needs.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. We certainly, you know, from our point of view, we definitely sort of saw that. It felt like a collaborative approach.
Thank you. So we have 3 minutes left for this webinar. So I would like to go and ask the last question, that is, so taking in consideration what we discussed, Reinhard, would you say that accreditation is worth the effort?
Definitely. There is no other way for you as a provider to demonstrate that the education you have prepared is based on independence and transparency and based on the needs of the participants. And that this is not something you have self-assigned to your activities, but has been checked by a third organization, by an external organization. And I think the question is not how many people you attract with that, but how many people would not use your education if you would not go through accreditation. And I think this is the crucial question. Definitely, we need to look at the administrative part. And as I said, it needs to be consistent. It needs to be reliable. But it should not. We should not come into a situation where it seems that administration has a value in itself. Yeah, this does not exist.
Thank you. Now, Louise, from your point of view.
Yes, it's a resounding yes from me. So just to build on what Reinhard said, so it's the only visible sort of stamp of independence. So we recognise that obviously the quality assurance that it provides and the trust that it builds amongst faculty, HCPs and industry as well. So there really is value in it.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for the nice discussion. I mean, I hope that we convince you that accreditation has a value from the learner perspective and also from the provider point of view. Of course, I want to remark the fact that it's not per se the credits, but it's really the value of having this process in place in which you agree with certain standards. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
So thank you everybody for joining again. We covered all the questions that we had coming before the webinar, and so we don't need to extend this discussion. However, there was one question that we didn't cover, that is how does accreditation work in Europe? And we had a previous webinar talking about this, and so you can look in the website of the Good CME Practice group to look at that. And regarding the detail of the process of applying for accreditation, it's really important that you go on the website of each single accreditor to look at the process. But Louise already covered quite a bit of the general perspective of the general process in the webinar. So with that, Louise, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, just like to say thank you so much for having me on today. It's been a pleasure to speak to yourself and Reinhard. And yeah, I would just like to emphasize the importance of accreditation. The reasons being it's truly independent, the quality assurance that it provides, and it builds trust. And with regards to the EBAC accreditation, more information can be found directly on the EBAC website. It's clearly listed there, and the process is really, really simple to follow.
Thank you. Reinhard?
Yeah, thanks again for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to clarify on some issues regarding accreditation. For example, this ongoing notion that accreditation is about credits. No, it isn't. And giving me the opportunity to mention the International Academy standards, which indeed are for the first time a global framework for accreditation, and are already used by important accrediting bodies who support them. And also giving me the opportunity to describe a little bit the issues accrediting bodies have to deal with, in particular in times with emerging digital forms of education, which I think adds not really a new, but a very important dimension to medical education, and helps to enable the medical profession to have information really available on time when needed during a patient encounter and during medical decision making. And I think this is probably the highest impact we can achieve, that education is directly linked to a decision made in the individual patient.
Thank you, Reinhard. And as a closing remark, I want to say that if someone from the participants want to submit any questions to or a proposal for new webinars, they can do it through the website, and I encourage them to do so we can have some suggestion for next future webinars. Thank you so much.
Bye everyone.
Thanks so much.
That was gCMEp members Monica Ghidinelli and Louise Banks with guest panellist Reinhard Griebenow discussing CME CPD accreditation. Worth the effort? The Good CME Practice Group is a membership organisation for CME providers based in Europe that aims to promote professionalism within the European CME provider community. More information can be found on the group's website, gCMEp.org. Thank you for listening, and join us for more episodes as we explore all things CME CPD.